That brings us right into the builder, and I want to give you guys a quick rundown, the layout of the land here, how this is actually set up. This is using what's called a section layout, a very common layout for websites, where you can see this all outlined in blue right here is one section. Down here, this is all one other section. You can see outlined in the blue box when you hover over it. And then this is the next section down here. Within each section, you have elements. So right here, we have just some text. That's a very simple one. Down here, we have two different columns, mostly two different columns of other text. So lots of different text boxes popping up here. We have a button. Other ones maybe have an image. For example, this one right here has an image over there. And within each section, if you want to move anything around, because this is a website builder, it's actually very easy to do. So if I decide I want this image a little bit more to the right, I can click on it and I can just drag it over to the right. Very easy to do. You'll also see that things snap to a grid. So as I slide this around, you'll see the little blue lines popping up. It's essentially trying to align itself to a grid on this specific section. And if you wanted to edit the grid on this section, or really anything about this section, we can click on section. On the right side, you'll see this pops up. We can edit the section. We can duplicate the section. We can hide the section. And I'll talk about those in a second. But editing the section, first of all, changing that grid. If we go to layout, you can choose the row height and the row gap, essentially what that grid looks like when you're dragging this around on where you want things to snap to. But some other things we can edit with this section right here. Like I said, click on edit section. You can change the background. Right now, it is just a basic color. You could also make it an image if you wanted to have just an image in the background and make that. Let me show you something in a second. If we go to images, let's upload a file. Now let's just say this is not going to be a great example, but just to show you, having an image in the background like this makes things not very readable. So you can actually change the opacity of that. So you can make it more opaque or less opaque, so it kind of blends into that background just like that. In addition, you can have what's called a fixed background, which gives you a parallax effect. Right now when we scroll, nothing happens. It moves. If we say fixed background, as we scroll, everything moves past it. It's kind of a cool effect that can really look nice on your website. In addition, you could have a video here. Similar tools, you can change the opacity, you can change fixed background or not, but I'm just gonna go with a basic color. I think that works well for this specific section. Now, that's the background. The layout, as I mentioned, we can choose the snap to the grid if we wanna have that. And of course, we have anchor over here. An anchor is going to be, if you ever want a button to link to a certain part of the page, so link over to this page and scroll down to right here, we can make an anchor. So let's just call this anchor can be bread. Let's just call this anchor bread. And now if anyone ever goes to this website, this link right here, it'll go to the page and it'll scroll down to right here. So if you have one long home page and you have your prices as like one section in there, that would be a good example of where you want an anchor. There's a lot that we're going to cover in this video, but that's the fundamentals of what a section is and what is in that section. Before I go through the other things with this section, let's talk about kind of customizing this section. So any element that we want to change, we can either double click on it and you can change the text, for example. So maybe we could say, we love coffee. And within that, you can change, of course, the type of font. So you can change it if it's bold, not bold, italic, whatever. You can change the font. I don't recommend doing that right now. We can change that for our entire theme. And of course, you can see if you want to change it to like a heading 2, is a little bit bigger, heading 1, heading 3, different things like that. Down here, similarly, because this is just regular text, we can double click it and we can change everything about this. We can type other things in here. And again, we have a lot of the same tools as well as a couple others. So if we wanted to link the sourdough recipe right here, say highlight sourdough recipe, we can link to another page. We can link to a web address, an email, a contact us type stuff. And if you say page, you can choose a page on your own website. So maybe this one just links over to the contact page because I don't have a specific article yet about sourdough bread. So I'm going to say save. And of course, by the way, you could choose if that wants to open in a new tab or open in this tab right here. Now, thirdly, the image over here, if we wanted to customize that image, we can edit the image. We could generate a new image. So let's actually generate an image. Let's just say coffee shop. So let's just create an image and see what it comes up with. And by the way, the AI image generator, in my opinion, is one of the easiest ways to get your website up and running. Just makes it so much faster to not have to go and take all your photos. Eventually, you can take your own photos, and I recommend that, but this could just be a really quick way to get started. So maybe this photo looks good. I can click on that, add it in right there, and that looks pretty good. So now I'm going to close out of this, and we have our image right there. Now, if we wanted to add anything else to this section right here, we can do so over on the left side. Now, I will go through all of these, but first, add element. there are a lot of different elements you can add here. We talked about text, we talked about images, and we talked about, essentially just subtext. So titles and paragraphs are both text, just different kinds of text. But the next one is maybe a button. So if we want to have a button in here, you can just click and drag this over, and we're going to drop a button right there. Now this button, of course, you could resize it, you can move it around. This is very familiar. I think a lot of people would be quite used to this format for adjusting this. If we double click on that, we can choose what it's going to link to and what actually says on there. So we could say order now, and this could link over to maybe our menu, for example, in a new tab. So if we go over to style, we can change the color of this, we can change the text color, we can choose which font we want in there, the size of the font, and of course the border radius. I think having a boxed off radius just doesn't really look particularly good. I'm going to add more of a rounded radius on there. I think that looks really quite good. I'm going to close out of this, and now we have our button. The font looks pretty small. Let's edit that really quick. Let's go to style. Font size can be a little bit bigger. Let's make it like that. And there we go. Now we have a nice big button right there. Let's kind of reorient that so it's in the middle, and that looks good.